Hi, I'm Joey Lott, and in this video I would like to share with you a perspective on seeking for the pure and perfect spiritual understanding or philosophy. This is a video that I'm doing because somebody asked me to respond to a video that they sent me on a popular non-dual teacher who had been speaking about how there is no awareness and there is no consciousness, and I had recently used the words consciousness and awareness in some videos that I had created, and so this person asked me to respond, and that's what this video is. Now, I'm putting this on YouTube because I think that this can be valuable for many people because I know that, like I did at a certain time in my life, many people do seem to seek for the pure and perfect spiritual philosophy or understanding, and this can turn into, from my perspective, needless suffering and struggle. So what I'd really like to do, actually, is to invite you to explore this together with me and find out what it is that you really value. Because from my perspective, that's what really matters. Not whether we get the right answer or the most pure and perfect understanding or philosophy. Actually, my experience of that was that when I was seeking for the pure and perfect philosophy or understanding, trying to get it right, underlying that was a fear. And I was afraid that I needed to get the right answer because that was the only thing that was going to save me. So rather than seeking for the right answer or the right philosophy or the right understanding, what I'd really like to do, and what I have found to be highly valuable, is to take a look together, just to inquire together in our own direct experience intimately and find out what really matters to us. What are we really looking for? What do we truly value? And the reason I feel that this is very useful is because when we find out what we truly value right now in this moment, then we can begin to have the confidence to live that authentically, rather than looking to some external authority to tell us whether we're on the right track, whether we have the right answer or not. We can begin to trust in the authority of our own actual experience, our own desires, our own authentic, heartfelt values. Now, if that just sounds like nonsense to you and you're not interested in that, then there's no obligation for you to listen any further. But for everybody else, what I'd like to invite you to right now is just to notice, if you're willing, that there's this conceptual overlay, and at that level, which we're usually entranced by, it can seem important that we try to figure things out and understand things and fix things and get somewhere and get away from something and do something and all of that. But what I'm interested in, and what I value, and what I'd like to just invite you to explore for yourself, just to see if this is of use to you or if it helps in any way, is just to be willing in this moment together to be vulnerable, to allow whatever is here now, even if what we discover is that there's some fear here. And what I inevitably notice is that there is a habit of trying to leap out of the present experience, the non-conceptual experience, to an understanding, a label, a story, trying to figure it out. But what I'd like to invite us to is to just allow ourselves to just be here, to rest, without grasping for a label or a thought, and just start to notice if perhaps our conditioned habitual reactivity to our own experience has been to try to leap out of it, to grasp something or get something or understand something. And what happens if we're just willing to be here together, vulnerable, just vulnerable to this present moment experience, just as it is? Whatever opinions we might have, whether we like it or don't like it, or think it's good or bad, right or wrong, pure or impure, whether somebody else approves or doesn't approve, whether we approve or don't approve. I'm just interested in exploring this right now, just as it is. So whatever words I've used, or whatever anything that I've ever said in any other video, anything that you've read or believed or heard or thought or listened to, can we just let that go for this moment and just be here? And then I wonder, what else do we need? And I'm not talking about conceptually. Of course, we'll get hungry and then we'll need some food. We'll get tired and we'll need sleep. And we need air to breathe. But fortunately, we're here breathing. And we're not starving. And we're not so sleep deprived that it's a danger right now. So in this moment right now, what else do we need? What I discover is that everything that's needed is here. It's provided. I don't need anything, actually, because it's all provided. In this moment right now, nothing is needed. And so, do I need to have a better or more pure spiritual philosophy or understanding? And what would that give me? I can, if I wanted to, I could imagine all kinds of scenarios, even looking to recent memory of situations in which I could imagine that I might have need, in which things did not go the way that I thought I wanted them to, in which I could imagine that I might need to protect myself, or that I might have fear that it would be unpleasant or scary or terrifying or uncomfortable or painful. And I can notice, actually, even presently, sensations that if I wanted to, I could think about and come up with all kinds of stories about how that's a problem and what I need in relation to that. But I'm just asking for this moment, not as a way of solving any problem, not as a way of trying to perfect the future, not as a way of trying to get it right, not as a way of doing anything other than just exploring right now what's actually happening, what's actually here, what's actually true in direct experience. I'm just proposing that we can just, for this moment, be here together, vulnerable to our own direct experience, to this moment, this direct experience as it is. And what I discover in truth is that there is no need. I don't need a better, more pure spiritual philosophy or understanding. I actually don't need to be concerned with whether there is awareness or there is consciousness or not. I don't need to be concerned with whether there is a person. I don't need to be concerned with what pronouns I use. I don't need to be concerned with whether I get it right. I don't need to be concerned with whether you love me or approve of me. I don't need to be concerned with whether I am infallible or not. I don't need to be concerned with anything because right now, there's no need. Now I could, again, imagine some future scenario in which I could imagine that there could be a need. But right now, there's no need. So why invent the need? Leave the future for the future. And even that, we can start leaping through mental hoops. Oh, but there is no future. The future is now. But just see if possibly we can be so vulnerable that we don't need to try and do that right now. What if we don't need to figure out who's right and who's wrong, and who's better and who's worse, and who's going to save us and who's going to harm us, and what we should do and where we should go and what we should believe, and who's going to love us, who's going to hate us, who's going to shame us, who's going to approve of us. Now, I can't tell you what's right for you. I can't tell you what to believe. I can't tell you what your values are. But I can invite you to discover for yourself what you value. And then I can encourage you, as I will right now, to trust in that. Because the doubts come. And everybody's got their opinion. And you can peruse YouTube all day long and find countless views and opinions and bickering and arguing over who's right and who's wrong and who's got the better answer. And what I have found, and what I'm suggesting that you might also find if you inquire for yourself right now, is, well, I'll just pose it as a question. What good has that done you? What good will it do you? And if you just are willing to be present and vulnerable right now, not as a concept, not as something that you're going to do a moment from now, not something that you will get perfect and you'll be present, but just as you are, just innocently and vulnerably right now, just being willing to let all of the everything come and go and just be. What do you need? What else is needed? And what benefit will you get from getting the pure and perfect spiritual philosophy or understanding? Other than perhaps the approval of others who also agree with that same philosophy or understanding. So we could all have a club in which we all agree on the same philosophy, and we could all pat one another on the back because we all say the right things and wear the right clothes and put on the right costumes and so forth. And there's nothing wrong with having clubs. So I'm not saying that that's wrong. Cultures exist and they have value. We don't need to argue that or debate that or try to figure out which one is better than the other one, and we don't need to try and get rid of them. I'm just proposing perhaps we can discover for ourselves that there is no actual need in this moment. Non-conceptually, there is no need. In the direct experience right now, not in the next moment, not the previous moment, but right now in this moment, there is no need. It's all taken care of. We don't need a better philosophy or understanding. And perhaps you will discover, as I discover, that this softening has practical benefits in life for the person, not just for me, not as I have imagined my life to be, this separate thing of me and my life, but can start to recognize that more truthfully that there is this flow of life, a web of life, in which what I normally perceive and conceive of as being me in my life is like a nexus. This doesn't have to be theoretical. It's right now. You can see that the idea of me as a separate thing and you as a separate thing is actually not true, because right here, right now, where is that separation? Right here and right now. At best, we could say that we are like nexuses in this web and that we are connected. There's not any separation that we can find without turning to concept. And so there is a practical benefit. Perhaps it depends on what you value. If you don't value what is here now in this connection, then perhaps you would say there is no value or benefit in this. But if you do value this, if you value this recognition of connection, unity, if you value tenderness and intimacy, if you value the recognition of this capacity for non-reactivity, if you value the ability to soften, then maybe this is beneficial. And then we could maybe recognize that there are practical benefits and that those benefits extend out everywhere, like ripples on a pond. That here in this moment, initiated perhaps by this video, we are here connected, recognizing that connection, and these ripples are moving outward and touching upon the lives of those who we are connected to. And so the whole web is lit up with this connection. Now again, you don't need to find that you have the same values I have no need for that. And I'm not asking you to value what I value. I'm just inviting you to discover for yourself what you value, and then to start to take responsibility for that rather than looking to others to validate or invalidate or give you your values. Because really, what is the benefit in that? If you don't actually authentically value what someone else values, then taking on their belief system is not of use to you. What can be of use is just to come together and explore our own experience, and perhaps through the invitation of someone else, like me in this moment through this video, you might discover more intimately what it is that you value, and then you might be willing to authentically allow for the expression of that value in your life and allow that to radiate out. Not as a new identity or something to cling to, not that it is something that must become permanent, but just in this moment, right now, just to notice what you most value. And I believe that this is beneficial. It's clearly, to me, beneficial in my life because, for example, I know that I value vulnerability, connection, intimacy, tenderness, and love. And I recognize very clearly in my life that when I recognize those values and simply allow for this recognition and the humility to slow down and to be soft and open to these values, that I like my life better. I like when I can be with my children without being frustrated and angry and irritable and reactive. And this is available, I find, increasingly when I choose to be humble and vulnerable and soft, and to really just allow for this natural expression of these values rather than the conditioned, reactive, impulsive, agenda-driven way that was conditioned. Now that probably doesn't fit with the perfect and pure spiritual philosophy. But then again, the perfect and pure spiritual philosophy doesn't really have a lot of benefit in my life. If it benefits you in your life, then wonderful. I think that's really fantastic. And I'm very happy for you that you've discovered that. But if that hasn't actually helped you, if having the most pure and perfect spiritual philosophy has not had practical benefits in your life, then all I'm suggesting and inviting you to is to discover if that's something that you actually want to invest your energy into any longer. And perhaps you could discover that there's something that is more accessible, that has real benefits that you value in your life. And perhaps that doesn't need to be a problem. Thank you for your time. I really do appreciate it. Bye for now.